Brendan Howlin.
And I propose to share my time with Deputy Sherlock. Firstly, I want to move the motion in my name and the name of my Labour colleagues. Decency, justice and equality are Labour's core values. Today, we're talking about those values insofar as they apply to children and young people. When Labour's leader, Tom Johnson, wrote the 1919 Democratic Programme for the first Dáil 100 years ago, he stressed the first duty of government was towards the education, development and welfare of children. I think they're important words for us to listen to today. In Labour's 2019 new Democratic Programme, we restated this pledge as follows. The first duty of government is to provide for the well-being, education and development of the children, regardless of origins, and to give them all an equal chance to fulfil their potential. Statements of principle are important. They give people a clear signal of what we as a people and this Parliament and this party stand for. And in fairness, if Labour's motion just asked the Dáil to support giving all children an equal chance to fulfil their potential, I'm sure everyone in this chamber, from all political persuasions, would vote to support the motion. But Labour's motion is not merely about fine words or statements of exhortation. We've set out in the motion, in real terms, the measures that are needed for government to fulfil its duty towards all the children in this country. The government must end homelessness for families with children. Legal changes are needed to grant citizenship to all children born and raised in Ireland. These are real issues affecting children in this nation today. Legislation is needed to give information about birth parents, to give that information to adopted children, information that they've been denied for decades. Legislation is needed to ensure complete equal parenting rights for same-sex couples. All of these matters, I know, would be close to the heart of the Minister for Children, but we need to act upon them. Public spending is needed to make affordable quality childcare available to all who need it. Public spending is needed to ensure prompt assessment of any special needs that a child might have, such as autism, and the provision of the support services to address those needs once identified. Public spending is needed to provide genuinely free of charge primary education. You know, we've talked, all of us, for years about free primary education, but there are real unmet costs that are barriers for full participation to some of our children. I could point out all the inequalities and injustices that continue to occur in each of these areas. And I know my colleagues who will speak after me will address some of these areas in some detail. So I just want to concentrate on 2 points. First of all, there is a reason we talk about childhood as a person's formative years, because it's that experience that is a person's best teacher. But experience can be the worst teacher also. If a child's experience of family life in a cramped B&B or a hotel room or an emergency homeless accommodation, if that is the early childhood experience, then the outcomes won't be good. If a child's experience of family life is stressed parents, it will be no surprise if that child does not thrive in school afterwards. And it will be no surprise if that child develops other problems in later life. If we fail in our duty to children, we don't just leave that person worse off, but as a society, all of us are the poorer. We lose the contribution that that person, that individual could make to the development of our nation and our society if we had given them the capacity to reach their full potential. And of course, some children come through the most harrowing and difficult of backgrounds and go on to achieve great things. But that is despite the adversity put in front of them, not because of it. And we know that many other children are held back by their early formative years that can be so hard, if not impossible, for schools and support services to undo or reverse once the harm is done in those early years of a child's formation. So it is incumbent for us to redouble our efforts, to refocus and commit as a Parliament to provide the best possible chance we can to our youngest citizens. And that brings me to the second point, Lascan Corla, that I want to make. The issue of citizenship. If a child is born and reared in Ireland, if he or she has never lived anywhere else, it has no deep connection to any other country, he or she should by right be entitled to Irish citizenship. The issue is about the residency status of parents. In the United States, the children of illegal immigrants are known as dreamers, a phrase that the Minister for Children will be well aware of. But there is a generation of dreamers in Ireland too. Children and young adults whose parents perhaps overstayed their work visa or came in as tourists and took up work subsequently. Just as countless numbers of Irish people have done in the United States. We do have to enforce migration law, but we do not have to blame innocent children for mistakes or decisions of their parents. That's why it's so important that we do not leave any of Ireland's children in this legal limbo. It's not good enough that some children get a special deal because they happen to live in the constituency that is represented by a member of the government. Unknown others are deported and are living restricted lives because they don't have access to citizenship. Labour's motion tonight is about a fair start for every child in Ireland. Labour has participated in 8 governments since the foundation of this state, and in every government we've delivered better quality public services. The Fine Gael government and the Minister for Children has not delivered on the promises that they've made in the Programme for Government for Children. Our motion specifically calls on government to deliver on its own commitments, ensure no child remains homeless, implement the affordable childcare scheme announced in Budget 2019, implement the commitment to free GP care for all under 18s, and implement the commitment to lift at least 700,000 children out of consistent poverty by next year. They're important objectives, freely entered into to the parties entering government. Let's see if they can be delivered upon. You said in the Programme for Government you would achieve these things. You've survived the economic crash, all of us, and there is now money available. The government has the money and the opportunity to make the investments necessary to deliver on what should be all our commitments to the children of this nation. Instead, the Taoiseach has repeatedly offered to cut taxes to higher earners rather than invest in addressing these fundamental issues. And at the heart of these matters is the question. Labour wants to use the state to invest public money for the benefit of our children. It's not about cash payments, it's about investment in a national system of affordable childcare, investment in special needs services for all our children, investment in comprehensive free primary education. It's about legislation to address the injustices that I've outlined. It's about preparing and implementing a comprehensive strategy to implement consistent child poverty and material deprivation. The government's proposed amendment to the motion before the House last Count Corley tonight does show some progress. I don't deny that there has been some progress. But the government is not delivering on its own commitments. And the amendment that I regret the government has tabled distracts from the core failings of its own policies. If the government continues with its current policies, we will not eliminate child homelessness. The affordable childcare scheme will not be implemented. Parents will pay for GP visits for their children aged between 7 and 18, and far too many will remain in situations of poverty. This is Labour's wake-up call to all of us, but particularly to the government. If you are sincere about your commitment to Ireland's children in this centenary year of the First Dáil, you need to address these real matters. Let us, as a national parliament, across all benches of this House, give that commitment tonight, without reservation or vote, to the children of this nation.